a sad day.
So why are you here?
To allow them to put services into this land, because we have been given a gift. We've been given 12 acres of land, and now they want to come in and put their servicing into this land for development, and so we're here to support that.
And who is they? Who are they?
Guswhenta Holdings.
And they're here to develop this piece of land here.
Mm-hmm.
And who notified you of this, or how is this organized that you came down here? Is it possible to?
We've been planning this for a long time, and we have been given the gift of the 12.5 acres, and we've always returned gifts for gifts, our people. So we have believed that we should stand beside the men that have given us our land back, that is to be put under the Haldeman Tract. And it's a sad day to see
and they just put it in the truck. So
men, grown men,
they don't want to read it,
against 4 or 5, 6 little old ladies, and that's a sad day. That's a sad day.
See, once they get the service, and that's why they want the service, and as soon as they get it all connected to 12 lots, there's a $4 million payday. Did they tell you about that? Yeah, but that's what happens. And then when you go into here, the guy who's doing the architectural design and all that, he gets like 12 or 13%. So why do you think they need to get this thing done? When those permits, they're saying they got 2 weeks to get it done. Bullshit, a permit lasts for a year, right? They didn't take the permit out. The guy that was here, Morley, the guy that does the construction, he's the one that took out the permit. So they're shooting those people out of line of shit, just to get what they want.
So who gets the money? You said the architect gets a percentage?
Well, all of them will. All the owners will get, once they get the sewer line from here to here, and it's a $4 million payday. If not, they got to start paying money on the money that they took out to develop this.
The architect is Guswhenta?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which is Steve Terra's company?
Yeah, and Brian Porter and Steve Montour. You know, these guys, every time we sat down with them and talked to them, they try to talk some sense into them. There's a different story to every time we talk, how it's going to come back to us. It ain't going to benefit us one way or the other. You know, putting people to work, that's not benefiting us. Only benefiting certain families. Well, I question this whole thing. This whole thing is shambles. Did you know in 1995 when they did the archaeological study on here, right, 95, it's outdated now. We asked Brian if there was one here, he said yeah, but the one that he's flying by is outdated. They got to redo the whole thing, hydrological study, environmental study, impact study, all this stuff has to be done here, archaeological study. They have to start it all over again, and it hasn't been done yet. They're flying out with something that's 95, right? You can't do that. Even the GREC, when we took it to this lady, Tran in Brantford, she was working with us on the OMB board here, and she didn't even know about this. So who else don't know about this? See, they don't know about developing. They're probably just going by this Morley guy taking out the permits to put the water and sewer lines in. You know, there's a lot of things that we need answers to, and nobody seems to address them. You know, they always dance around the issue. We asked them to hold a public meeting at home. They knew the men were going to Dundalk that night. They stacked the room with their people, and they had said, well, they took it to a vote. 17 people agreed, 3 turned it down. What is that? That's not democracy. Now we're here today, and we told them, where are the clan mothers? Those women here that profess to be clan mothers are not clan mothers. You know? So this whole thing is, you know, it's just tainted. Like, we're not going to let that happen. That's why we're here. You know, that's why we got to think of those children and the faces that are still in the ground. We got to think of them, the ones that are here, the little ones. What is going to be here for them if we give our land away? And that's what the Mohawk workers want to do. They want to give it away in fee simple. It's under land claims. It's in this, yeah. It's all this undisputed land. It is our land. Our people used to live here. Then one day, because they couldn't live here, they used to always flood, So they left. And then when they left, Brantford put up the dike. So by putting it up, they assumed ownership, see? This is all the city of Brantford thinks too. Look at Judge Arell in the court case. He said, well, there's 150 acres, you guys never used it. So we just figured we, So if you don't use it, you lose it.
You know, I've been told that the land's under claim still, essentially.
Yeah, all land under the Haldeman's under claim pretty much, isn't it? All of the land in the Haldeman's getting developed, isn't it?
I don't know. I'm you know,
where are you from? You're from here? The structure that we put together for this particular property, I think, is makes sense. It's a good deal for us. I think it's you know, probably, you know, personally, I think it's the best the best project that's kind of been tabled in terms of, you know, it's this 39-acre piece of land. The proposal was to kind of develop 26 in a conventional way, the way that it would typically get done in Brantford, and then we wanted to convey 12.5 acres back to the community under the Haldeman. That was the structure that we've got put together for this. The other 5 acres is kind of over in the corner there, which would need to be put there to do stormwater management for sort of the area here. The other piece of it is we agreed to purchase 39 acres, you know, somewhere else. I mean, ideally that would be within the Haldeman Tract too, and convey that as well. So the community would be getting acre for acre somewhere else. We'd be conveying 12.5 acres here. And the spot that it was going to be is Birkett Lane runs across, and then there's 12.5 acres back there that was going to come back. I know some people are concerned about the means that we have conveyed it back, and that the way we have got that papered right now is through a memorandum of agreement with some trustees from the Mohawk Nation. There are 5 names on that memorandum of agreement: Bill Squires, Ellis Hill, Ruby Mentor, Caroline Van Ivry, and Frank Smith are the names. And that memorandum of agreement is identical to one that was done, I think it was 1994, on a property on Gilkinson Street, where Peter Cook and his wife Dulcie Hayes conveyed a piece of land back as well. So we thought that was it was an agreement that's been around for a while. It seems to have been working, so we kind of replicated it. And I think that's got some people upset too, that there's this perception that it's kind of, with some, that we're giving maybe the Mohawk Nation more credence than we are the other nations of the Confederacy. I don't think that's not our intent, but that's sort of the way that this has gone forward. Well, it's a memorandum of agreement.
Okay.
We signed it on October 20th for the 12.5 acres. And again, we modeled it after one that was signed in, I think it's 1994. I can't remember the date exactly. But there are copies of it over in the house, over on 88 Birkett Lane, if you want to go take a look. I think the house is probably open.
Okay. And
copies of both agreements, the one that was signed back in the early 90s and the one that was signed in October.
And how does that fit into the ownership of the land now and the development of the land?
Well, I think it's just a testament to, you know, our commitment that, you know, we were being challenged. People were saying, you know, are you sincere about conveying the land back? How do we know that you're going to do it? And we basically said, you know, we've already executed the memorandum. It's been signed and it's a legal document. So we're hoping that can kind of illustrate.
So there were lawyers as well involved with this?
Owen Young drafted the one back in 1994. Mm-hmm. He was a local lawyer. He's since gone on to the Solicitor General's office, I think. Mm-hmm. But we thought, you know, it was good enough back then. It's held up. So we thought that rather than invent the wheel, maybe let's just replicate the best mechanism that we've seen out there.
So who, if you mind me asking, who drafted this one?
We took it almost word for word from the one that was done in '94. All we did is we changed out 110 Gilkinson Street to this 12.5 acre property here.
Okay. And you're Guswhenta Holdings?
Yes.
So I want to make sure
Yes.
that this. So the architect and the owner are the one and the same, or is it who's the developer, who's the architect, who's the owner?
Well, we've talked to a couple of companies about developing this. We don't have the resources to develop it ourselves, so we're looking at partnering with a company called Kingwood. They would be the builder for anything that might happen here.
Okay.
With regard to the 12.5, you know, we really see that as a community resource. It's really up to the community what happens with that 12.5 acres. Some of the potential that's over there, though, because of the zoning, it's the 12.5 acres. Some of the land has a medium density zoning, some of it has a high density zoning. So it's got the technical capability of supporting, it's over 600 housing units. So with the huge backlog at Six Nations, you know, it's overcrowding. There's like an 800-person waiting list on the Band Council's housing list. We thought that because this land is so easily serviced that it would be a good place to develop housing for our own, to help put a dent in the backlog that exists out there at Six Nations. Even though the water treatment plant is coming on stream soon, I understand in December, I think, is the latest I heard, they're still going to have a hard time developing some of the pieces out there because there's no sewage capacity either. And if you look at Band Council's capital plan, it's basically showing the Painter Road site out near Onondaga is where they're targeting housing for the next 20 years, but there's no infrastructure there. The nearest infrastructure is like, you know, 5-6 miles away. You know, we're conveying you know, pretty much a third of the land. You know, we're picking up acre for acre somewhere else and conveying that as well. So I mean, I think it sets the bar higher than anything else I've seen. That's sort of, but a lot of them, they're sort of, you know, they're negotiating, you know, you know, they're none of the stuff is really public. There aren't enough public consultations to my mind. So we've tried to be as transparent as we can. So there's deals that are getting done kind of every day elsewhere.
The criticism I heard here was that there's not a whole consensus with all the people.
No, there's not. I don't know whether there ever will be. I don't think, you know, there was a consensus with Samsung and the windmills. I don't think there was a consensus with Summerhaven. There's never going to be consensus at Six Nations. And people also talk about process, that we have to follow the process. Well, I don't know what the process is for council. I don't know what the process is for the HDI. I don't know what the process is for the men's fire. I don't know what the process is for the Mohawk workers. We're just doing the best we can to try to be as transparent and as open as we can be, to talk to everybody.
See, there's a couple issues we have with the whole project. One is the archaeological assessment they have is a 1995 agreement. And before 2006, the reclamation, we found what they would do is they would just rubber stamp the archaeological assessment, like the government, go ahead with the development, right? So since 2006, we found that out. So Six Nations has their own archaeological firm. I think it's called Martel and Timmins, and they're the ones who do all the, since 2006, they do all the archaeological work for Six Nations. So we need, that's one issue. We need that to come. We need an updated archaeological assessment. They also need to deal with HDI. They're avoiding HDI. That's why HDI is here. There's issues with them. So now let's look at the deal itself. They're turning 27 acres of land into free simple. And they're saying they're giving us 12 acres back. Well, the government's trying to do that as we speak. They're kind of doing it even before the government does it even. Where non-natives can come up here, buy land, and then if the natives come up here and buy land, we have to pay property tax on it. That's the biggest issue I have, is paying this property tax, you know. So and our people's like, we're only people and we don't pay tax, right? You know. So another thing I have a concern about is this deal. The first deal we make is going to set precedents. So this is going to be like a model deal, right? So now the deal is they get 27 acres, we get 12. If we use that all through the Haldeman, we're going to only end up with 1/3 of the Haldeman. If we use that as the, you know, if they use that as the model, you know. So we have to be really careful about what deal, how we go about making these deals, you know. And now the Mohawk workers, they're one family, they're Squire's family. You can see of the men here, it's not just Mohawks. We have Senecas, we have Tuscaroras, we have Onondagas, and we have Oneidas all up here. It's not just Mohawks this time. That is the thing. This deal is going to affect the other nations as well. What happened now, since the times before when we stopped it, see, they got an injunction put against us. Well, now they sold the land to another developer, so the injunction got lifted. So there's no more injunction on this property now. So the new holders is, what I understand, is Guswhenta Holdings, and it's owned by Brian Porter and Steve Montour, the ex-cop. He's in the cigarettes now. That's who are the shareholders of Guswhenta Holdings, along with Steve Terres, is it? He's the one. They're the group that either hooked up with another developer, or, well, they're saying they bought it, and they still haven't seen bill of sale or proof of sale that they did buy it. But they're saying they closed on it, and that they're going to hold the mortgages on the houses that get built here, you know. And then there's a stipulation with that too, about the land itself, whether or not it's going under the Haldeman or not. We have to be careful how we word that, because if we say we're going to put that back under the Haldeman on that side, well, I'm saying, who took it out of the Haldeman? Then we're admitting all the other 950,000 acres that we have in the Haldeman tract are out of it, you know. So we have to be careful how we word that, because what happens is the land, it's in the Ontario Real Estate Corporation, I think it's called, where provincial law applies to the land. And you see, if we use this 1997 agreement and it goes back underneath Six Nations, holds that in their trust, it's non-taxable. But it's held by Six Nations. It's not held by the Ontario Corporation. So provincial laws doesn't apply. So that's the issue that we have with this underlying title also. When they're saying they're putting it back under the Haldeman, to me, it's still in the Haldeman. Nobody's taking it out. It's the government that says they've taken it out of the Haldeman, and they put it in this real estate corporation. And the way why they got to do that is because that's the only way the banks will lend them money. That's the only way they can hold the mortgages on there, is putting it in this Ontario Real Estate Corporation. When it's on Six Nations underlying title, because see, they can't come and foreclose on us when it's under that. So that's a big issue. Like, they can't come into Six Nations down on our reserve and foreclose on our houses down there or do anything like that, you know. So that's kind of a sticky situation, and I don't think the Mohawk workers really understand the deal, like how they're really selling us out. They're really selling us out on this deal that we're going to be paying tax on it. Because like I said, they're going to use it as a model for the rest of dealings, you know.
The boundary here, the dike?
Yeah, this is the dike, basically.
So is there a drainage issue with this area?
It's a floodplain. It's zoned as a floodplain.
So how can they build on a floodplain?
Because they rezoned it. They can do what they want. On the signatures of the Haldeman, it should be the women, because the women's role under the Great Law, the Kaianerekowa, the Great Law of Peace, the women are the title holders of the land. It's their roles to be the signatures of the Haldeman. In the Great Law, there's no such thing as Mohawk workers. There's a Hoskanigetah is mentioned in the Great Law, in our Constitution, because we have a Constitution in that Great Law. There is the Hoskanigetah mentioned, and that's the men. the men, it's the uncles, it's the grandfathers, it's the nephews, it's all the men. It's the Hoskanigetah, and the closest that we can put that in the English words is the men's fire. But it's the we're the legit government body under the great law.
So what's going on with on the back page of this with the signatures? I don't understand.
Well, see, that's what they're saying. Their signatures of the aldermen, and we're saying, where did they get that authority? Who gave them that authority to sign that deal? And it wasn't done by the people, because 17 people doesn't represent 24,000 people at Six Nations, you know? And that's the issue we have. It's got to be back to the community with everybody's, you know, input on it.
I was told by Guswhenta just now that it will assist with the housing issues on Six Nations.
Yeah, I don't see how this project is going to help that, assisting with houses on Six Nations, because the way it is now, our people can come to Brantford and buy land anywhere they want if they have the money and pay tax on it. They can do that already. It doesn't need to be at the development down here, you know. So I can't see how that's helping our housing list whatsoever, because of it's not for our people. It's for anybody that can come. Accounting Gary McHale could come and buy land up on that piece of property, and we couldn't do nothing about it if this deal goes through. And any of our people go up there and buy land, they have to pay tax on it. And only people shouldn't pay tax. And that's the bottom line. Our people should be able to go, the deal that we should be making is, if our people has the money, we should be able to go anywhere in the Parliament, buy property off of that third party, pay them off, and live there without paying property tax. Where he was stated, Bill Squire was stated saying it's all tax-free. That's not true. He's lying to the media. It's not going to be all tax-free. Them 27 acres, if our people go and buy land up there and buy a house, they have to pay property tax on it. That's not right. We shouldn't have to be paying property tax on our own land. And I just showed you proof that this Eagles Nest is our land. Until Brantford can show me a bill of sale, they bought it off of Six Nations, it's our land. You know, and I'm gonna act sovereign, and I'm gonna be stopping this development on it. And it's saying it's our land, you know.
You get little.
Next week.
This is what happens.
What did they do? They knew we were going to done that. I wonder how they knew that.
So do you have that?
But they knew we were going
to make sure nothing gets done until further discussions continue? Well, that's what I think should happen.
I agree. So are we going to be able to agree on that? Because if not, the men will be down here again to shut everything down.
Well, Morley's is the one that they took out the work permit, right? They're the one that made application, right?
Right. So we have to talk to Morley's. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like they're.
But don't they get their direction from you?
Well.
Wouldn't you be the one to say, you know what? Well, we're not ready to go ahead with what was planned, so we're going to hold off until further notice.
Yeah, I think that's. There's not going to be any work done without the community being on side.
So that's your word then. So we don't have to come back again tomorrow.
No, I don't think you do.
That's all we asked for in the first place.
So if we can agree on that, then I think that's definitely a step in the right direction. And the thing, like I said, we have to be patient because we have to make the right decision.
The other thing is, you know, when we got our purchase and sale agreement together on this project, you know, we assumed a bunch of mortgages, right? So the purchase and sale agreement is in the name of Guswhenta Holdings, but ultimately the banks own it. If they decide to squeeze us out and foreclose, which they can do anytime they want, then this property ends up, you know, being under the name of a couple of banks, and I can't guarantee what they're going to do if we don't legally have any kind of say in it anymore. So like we could get squeezed out today, they could foreclose, end up at the banks. The banks could say, Morley's, go ahead, we're the new owners, and the fight's back on. So, you know, that's why I'm only hesitating because of that. This isn't completely in my control.
You're not hesitating what to say that no development's going to be?
No,
continued?
you're asking me whether any work is going to happen until the community's on side, and I don't know. That's what I would think would happen. But if the banks decide to foreclose on the mortgages, take it over, stay with Morley's, put in an injunction on it, and start digging, I have no control over that. So I don't want to say I can give you my word that there's no work going to happen before the community's on side, because I can't.
As long as it's in your possession, is it not?
Yeah, until they foreclose.
Right.
So I can give you that. But as long as we have some say in it, but who knows how long that's going to last? That could last a day. It could last a week.
Mm-hmm. So we're under that. So we are clear that that's the understanding that we have now. So nothing's going to happen until.
I wouldn't come back tomorrow. Nothing's going to happen tomorrow. I don't think.
With all due respect, it sounds like you keep avoiding the question.
Because I can't give you a definite answer. What did you ask me? You asked me whether development's going to happen, before the community's on side, and I can't give that assurance because we might not only have control for another week or so.
You say you text the meeting date?
Well, the way that we understood the meeting was cancelled until we went to Dundalk, and then it was back on somehow.
No, I don't know where you got that information, because we talked that when we had the meeting at Canada, we all agreed we were going to shoot for the day before Halloween, and on Saturday we got confirmation out that that's when it was going to happen, and on Monday we released the location.
So you sent by text message to various councillors and things. Is that what you said?
I've got about 50 names on my whatever that I think have an interest in this project. Some with the Mohawk workers.
You mentioned Jen Vanderstelt, for example. How does he have an interest in this?
He's a city councillor.
Is this his district here?
I don't know whose district. I think this is Margaret Cheshie Smith's district, I think, but I don't know. I think Jan's Homedale, I think. But he's the only Brantford councillor whose cell phone number I have.
So I've been involved with the men's fire and these guys here, trying to facilitate, trying to mediate the process. All my point is, look, we know what the issues are. We don't want to fight each other in public forum. Do that behind closed doors, whatever we need to do, but don't send Brantford a message that we're against each other. I'm solid against that. I'm not for us fighting each other. We do that in an elected system. You go into the Assembly of First Nations, the Chiefs of Ontario, we can't get consensus anywhere. So let's be real about this process. That's really what's going on nationally in the country. Everybody has their ideologies. We got a national chief who purports to represent us. Nobody knows what he does behind closed doors. And the Prime Minister isn't lying when he stands up before the Canadian public and says, I met with the chiefs, because Atleo is in there talking to the Prime Minister unbeknownst to anybody else at the community. These are the kind of problems that we have with respect to the grassroots. We got a disconnect from the band council to the community. Let's be real. In every community, not just this community. New Credit has it, remote communities has it, and I spent a lot of time in a remote community as well, so I know for a fact that we have this serious disconnect. And it's really how we come to terms with our issues. We got the factions everywhere. It's not just here. Every one of the communities have their factions. And so it's really, how do we sort out our own issues? How do we get the yes? How do we move forward? So I've said to Bill, the men's fire, I've said to Bill Squires, the Mohawks, I've said to Guswhenta, we don't want to fight each other in a public forum. That's not where, Brantford is not our friend. As First Nations, as people amongst ourselves, the non-native government's not our friend. We know that from history. We don't have to repeat history all the time. What we need to do is set the stage for the future and how we handle ourselves in the future. Because we need each other. Bottom line. Anyway, I'm going to